And I cannot be blaming those. I cannot use that as excuses no more. That's not going to work. We can't let that fly. Otherwise, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. And I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. I don't even like it right now at 24 years old. You want me to do another 20, 30, 40 years of this? More, God willing. But no. And it's just like, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the Hood Soft Life podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina. And in this podcast, we talk about navigating the challenges that come with growing up in the hood and leaving those challenges behind for a soft life. Growing up in the hood comes with its own set of challenges. What people don't tend to tell you is not only do those challenges follow you once you've made it out physically, but they tend to intensify. So, I'm bringing you along on my journey. I'm going to be honest with you about the struggles and the lessons that I'm learning to achieve a soft life. In this episode, we're going to be talking about how it's time for a rebrand. So, let's get started. All right, y'all. Happy Monday. I hope that you had a great week last week. Quick little update, because this episode will be pretty much an update anyways, but quick little update for me and quick little recap on my week. It's been a long one. And was Valentine's Day last weekend? If it was, I hope you guys had a good Valentine's Day. Yeah, it's just been a pretty interesting week. And because this episode is going to be a little bit different, that's pretty much going to be like my recap for the week. But this episode is going to be a little bit different because I didn't really script out an episode. I honestly just wanted to get in front of the camera and be as honest and as realistic as possible because it's been a week. I can't even lie to you. And I want this to be more of like a FaceTime call with me being more realistic and being more true to myself. And there will probably be minimal editing because I just want it to be as real as possible. Unless there's too long pauses or there's a lot of or if I get up to do something because I'm baking some brownies, I'll take a quick break and I'll cut some things out. But I just really want to come on here and do a quick little FaceTime call, if you will, or a video chat if you have a Samsung, and just talk a little bit about like what I'm going through, because I feel like a lot of people are going through the same thing. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. All right, y'all. So like I mentioned, this week has been something. And if you don't follow me on my personal page or if you don't follow our Instagram, I had posted that I was going to take a week off from social media, but I'm back. I'll be back on all social media platforms today. And I just really needed the break because I felt like I was struggling with a sense of trying to find a good balance in life. And that's honestly like where I'm at right now. I wouldn't even say like I've gotten over that. I'm at that point right now where it's just like, I'm just a girl, okay? I'm just a girl. How am I supposed to balance my full-time job as a teacher, trying to be a content creator and grow a business, going to the gym, growing in my faith, maintaining good relationships, maintaining my mental health, going to Bible study, being a part of my ministry? How am I supposed to? And we're not even going to talk about dating because I'm not even I can't even add anything else to the list. But it's just like, how am I supposed to balance all of these things as one person? And I want to do well, and it just feels like there's so much pressure to try and balance all of these things, and it feels impossible. It feels like I'm trying to juggle 17 balls with my hands tied behind my back. Like, how am I supposed to do that? And so I felt very overwhelmed, and I'm not gonna lie, I felt pretty defeated last week because we had a 3-day weekend, and then we returned back to work, and you know, the kids be wilding even on a regular day, but having a long weekend they had a 4-day weekend. So just coming back from a long weekend and trying to maintain like my posting schedule with my content and figuring out like who do I want to be on the internet on the lifestyle side. Like I know exactly who I want to be for the HSL podcast, and I know exactly what type of message I want to give out. And that's cool and that's great, but I also want people to see a different side of me. I don't always want it to be like, dang, it seems like her life always a struggle. And sometimes listen, to get to where you want to be, sometimes it is hard, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I also want people to see my day-to-day life and people to see who I am outside of just the hour or less that you see me for the HSL podcast once a week. And so I really want to create 2 different pages that highlight who I am as a day-to-day person, like the funny side of me, the realistic side of me, just who I am, and then the professional side of like this podcast. And yes, do I still keep it real on here, and do I still be myself? 110%. But also, this is a space where we're building a community and we're being realistic about our journey from going from the hood to a soft life and getting to where we want to be. And it's not just about financial security, but more importantly, social, emotional, and spiritual security and strength. And that's honestly some serious stuff like that can't always be at kiki here. So I'm trying to find a balance, and I feel like balancing these 2 pages and then balancing a full-time job as a teacher, it is really, really hard. And I'm also at a point where it's just like, I'm 24. My 25th birthday will be May 21st, in case you guys want to remember. And I'm just at a point where it's just like, okay, I'm about to be 25, and I'm not satisfied with where I'm at. I'm not satisfied with my full-time job. I'm not satisfied with where I'm at in terms of pursuing my goals. And honestly, I need to take the accountability and say that that's on me. I just wanted some time away from screens, away from social media, to really gather my thoughts and figure out like what's good. Because it honestly felt like I was just like, well, what's wrong with me? Why is it that like every time I sit in front of my computer, whether it's for this podcast or for my lifestyle page, whatever, all of a sudden I have these overwhelming feelings of doubt. And I already know what that is. And I did an episode about spiritual warfare, and I talked about that. And it's just like, it's frustrating. I'm at a point where it's just like, I'm so frustrated and I'm so annoyed with dealing with this every single time I sit down to pursue the thing that I want to do. And then I'm also frustrated with where I'm at in terms of the career that I currently have, because I'm not fulfilled. It's not a purpose-driven job at all. And it's like, I used to have a passion for uplifting children of color and educating them and this, that, and the third, but I have lost that. I've only been in education for 3 years, and I have lost that. Like, I do not want to be a teacher. I do not want to be in a school. I do not want that anymore, because it is so exhausting. It is so draining, and it's not what I thought it was going to be. 110%. It's not. And so I'm just trying to figure out like, well, what is my next move? And I feel like I've always thought that way, where it's just like, what's my next move? What's my next move? What's my next move? In terms of like trying to get myself to be at the end goal of having like my dream life. But I don't want to operate like that. Like, that's not where I'm at right now. I'm not operating in a sense of like, I just want to get to my dream life and call it a day. It's more so just like, I'm ready to make a pivot and I'm ready to make a shift, because where I'm at right now is not working for me no more. I don't want to be working a job just because I got bills to pay. I don't want to do a job that doesn't fulfill me. I don't want to do a job that's not purpose driven anymore. Like, I'm getting older and I want to be leaning into the person that I was assigned to be. And yes, I'm still young, right? 25 doesn't mean like I'm 100. Like, it doesn't mean that my life is over, but it's just like, I'm getting to a point now where it's just like, I'm a young adult, but I'm starting to lean into quote unquote real adulthood, for lack of a better word, right? Like, I'm not going to be in my mid-20s forever. And it's just like, I know it's going to take time for me to get to where I want to be, and I want to start leaning into that. I want to start putting in the work to get to that place, and so that like I'm putting in my hours now instead of putting in my hours when I'm 35, 45, 55. And that doesn't negate people who do that and become successful, or, change their careers or pivot and find something that's more purposeful. There's nothing wrong with that either. But I'm just at a point where it's just like, I'm already unsatisfied now. I cannot do this a year from now. I cannot wait another 2, 3, 4 years. Like, there's really no point in that. Unless I want to be dissatisfied for another 2, 3, 4 years, then sure. But that's not how I feel. That's not what I want. And I feel like right now it's almost like a sense of urgency, a pressing on my heart for sure, of just like, it's time to move. It is time to make a pivot. It's time to rebrand, because what we've been doing for 24 years of life is not working for us no more. It really isn't. And so I'm at a point where it's just like, what we've been doing is not working in our favor. And we've tried a couple of times to like get our life together and pick ourselves up, and it works. But then somewhere along the way, we always fall off. We always go back to our old ways. We always resort back to the things that weren't working for us in the first place, because we're comfortable there, because we're familiar with that, because we don't want to do what's unknown. We're afraid of that. And I'm frustrated with that. I'm frustrated with myself for that, because it's just like I do that so much. And then I get even more frustrated because it's like I see the potential I have. I see the life that I want to have. And I see myself being the reason I'm not there. I'm getting in my own way. And I just get frustrated with myself. And I'm trying to learn how to give myself more grace. But I also want to hold myself accountable and say that, yes, we have traumas that we need to heal. Yes, we have been through a lot. Yes, we have a lot on our plate. And we came here to eat. And that doesn't mean that we need to stack on our plates like we're not going to ever eat again. But it's just like we need to start reworking this. We need to start figuring out what it is that we can do to hold ourselves accountable to getting to where we want to be. Because we can't control outside forces. We cannot control other people. We cannot control God's plan at all. But what we can do is control ourselves. What we can do is hold ourselves accountable. What we can do is change the things that are not working for us anymore and start doing the thing that we want to do. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm at a point where it's like I'm really just talking to myself and giving myself that tough love. I feel like, I'm not gonna lie, there were points in time where I've adopted a victim mentality and I used my trauma as like excuses for why I make the mistakes that I do. And it's just like, yeah, the first like couple of times, yes, that makes sense why I will make those mistakes. But now it's just like I'm smart enough. I'm too smart to be using those as excuses to do the same mistakes over and over and over again. You're too smart to be making the same mistakes over and over and over again and using your trauma as an excuse. It's not an excuse no more. You're aware. You're aware when you were making that mistake the first and the second time and you weren't really sure why you were making that mistake. Hey, yes, you can acknowledge that your trauma was probably leading you to make those mistakes. But now that you know, what are you going to do to solve the problem? Now that you know what the cause of the problem is, if you make that mistake again, you got to hold yourself accountable for that. That's your own doing, because you knew what it was that was causing you to make that mistake and you still chose to make it again. And I'm not just coming for y'all. Like this is really just a video diary, if anything else. Even if nobody listened to this episode, I need to hear it, and I need to start saying this stuff out loud, because I feel like I was just trying to have this conversation with myself internally, and it wasn't getting me nowhere. I just kept getting in my head, and I was supposed to film this yesterday, Saturday. I'm filming this on Sunday. I was supposed to film this on Saturday, and I was like, I don't really want to film, and I've been getting in my head about like, do I just shut down all my social media platforms and call it a day in terms of being a content creator? And I'm looking at myself like, why would you even do that? Like, that's the thing that you feel called to do. You feel called to help people through your content. You feel called to inspire people, to show people that they can do this. And yes, is the journey hard? Abso-fucking-lutely. And I try not to curse anymore, but I just have to say it. Abso-fucking-lutely, it is hard. And we can still do it anyway. We can still do it anyway. And that's where I'm at with myself. It's just like, I've made the mistakes and I've done the things that I wasn't supposed to do. And there were traumas and things that I learned that were holding me back. And now I'm too smart for that. Now I'm fully aware of what it is. And I cannot be blaming those. I cannot use that as excuses no more. That's not going to work. We can't let that fly. Otherwise, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. And I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. I don't even like it right now at 24 years old. You want me to do another 20, 30, 40 years of this? More, God willing. But no. And it's just like, if there's anybody else who is at that point where it's just like, I'm so dissatisfied with where I'm at. I feel like I'm not pursuing anything of my purpose. I feel like I'm not doing anything that's going to fulfill me in life. I feel like I'm called to do something and I keep holding myself back. If you don't know why you're doing that, we're going to talk a little bit more about like some shadow work prompts that will help you. If you feel like you have an idea as to why you're doing that, or you know why you're doing it, now what? Now what are you going to do? Are you going to hold yourself accountable, or are you going to continue to allow yourself to make the same mistakes knowing why you make those mistakes and then chalk it up to trauma? And then give yourself more grace? Give yourself more allowance? I thought you didn't like being here. So then why do you keep allowing it? And why do you keep making the same mistakes when you already know what it is that you need to fix? And I'm not saying that fixing trauma and solving trauma is, like dandelions and rainbows and unicorn, kick one leg up in the air. No, it's not easy. It's not easy. But if you know what the problem is that is causing you to do the thing that you're not supposed to do, or to keep making the same mistakes that you don't want to make, when are you going to try to solve the problem? When are you going to try to solve the problem? Be for real. Now that we've gotten past that little tough love motivation, I want to talk about those doubts that I've been feeling. And if anybody's been feeling doubts whenever they want to apply for that job, apply for that program, leave their job to pursue entrepreneurship, start making that video, make that music, whatever it is that you do, right? For anybody who has those doubts when they start doing that, this is like how I'm feeling, right? It's like whenever I get in front of my computer and I have a bunch of ideas, and honestly, I think that they are so good. But whenever I sit in front of this computer, all I hear is, you can't do this. Why would God pick you over anybody else? Have you seen what your family members have done? Have you seen what the history is for your family? Nobody's a millionaire. Nobody is wealthy. Nobody is pursuing their purpose. Nobody is doing any of that. So why would God choose you? I hear that every single time I get in front of my computer. And I'm not going to lie to you, that shit is daunting. It's hard. It is very hard to push past those voices in your head. Sometimes they're a little quiet and you can just ignore them and shoo them away. And sometimes they're so fucking loud that you can't do anything else. Like, you literally can't help but to ruminate in those voices. And I completely understand that, 110%. But I was at a point where I was just like, I'm not even gonna lie, I asked ChatGPT because I feel like I had my hands up. And it's like, yes, I've asked God, I've also talked to God, but there are some times where it's just like, I need an immediate response. I need an immediate reaction. And God created ChatGPT, so same thing. I'm not going to keep using ChatGPT as my form of like communication with God by any means, but I was just like, let me just ask and let me just see what ChatGPT says. And so it gave me out a list of reasons of like why that's happening every time I get in front of my computer. And I don't have it listed here, so I'll put it in the description. But then I sat down and listened. He was like, or ChatGPT was like, does any of this sound familiar? And I'm like, first of all four of these sound familiar. But I started sitting there and like, playing around with my ChatGPT prompt to really just like understand like where I'm getting these feelings from, where I'm getting these emotions from. First of all, therapy is free now. Go on ChatGPT, y'all, because that John almost had me in tears by the end. But there was one thing that it got me thinking about, and it was just like, these voices in my head aren't even mine. These voices in my head telling me that I'm not good enough, that I'm not going to pursue my passions, that I'm not going to pursue my purpose, and that I'll never achieve these things. Those aren't even my voices. And it was just like, growing up, you hear all these people telling you that you can't do this thing and that you can't do this thing, or that you shouldn't because of X, Y, and Z, whether that's because they were trying to protect you and they were trying to keep you safe, or because they were genuinely trying to kill, steal, and destroy your entire dream. People will tell you that. And you start to collect those memories. And especially if they're significant enough memories where it's just like people are hardcore telling you like, no, you can't do this thing. Nobody else in our family does this thing. Da, da, da. Those are messages that you learn along the way. You can't help the fact that your brain collects those and they hold on to that. And so I'm at a point where it's like, I've heard that for years and years and years on end from this person and that person, whatever. And it's just like, I never really got fed any positive affirmation about me being able to do the thing that I wanted to do in this life. And so it's just like, that's all I got. All I got is these negative voices, and they're not even mine, because I realized like when I talk to other people, if I was on the outside and my friend came to me and they were just like, yeah, I'm struggling with this and I feel like I can't do this, that, and third, I would never sit up in here and tell them, well, you can. No, I would never sit up in here and tell them that. Like, in all honesty, I know what my voice sounds like. My voice sounds encouraging, uplifting, kind, and gentle. And I know exactly what I would tell my friend if they were in this position. My friend came to me, if they came to me and they said, I'm really struggling. I want to pursue this. I want to be a doctor, and I'm in med school right now, but I just feel like I'm not enough and I feel like I should drop out. I just feel like I'm never going to be a doctor because nobody else in my family is a doctor. I would literally tell them, you have done everything up until this point to get yourself to this career. You are smart enough. You are dedicated enough. You have a mission. You want to help people. You can do this. You can do this. And that's the voice. That is my voice. But the problem is that my voice is not also in my intellect. My voice is not up here. I have other people's voices still trapped in here, trying to control me and trying to stop me from doing what I want to do, trying to stop me from doing what I'm called to do. And it's so frustrating. Hold on one second, y'all. And it's so frustrating because I never would have had that mindset if it wasn't for other people constantly feeding me that message. Constantly feeding me this message. And I talked about this a couple of times in the podcast, but it's just like, I feel like the person that I was supposed to be, like who I saw as a child, and yes, you develop and you change as a child, but who I was supposed to be, this kind, gentle, feminine individual who cares for others, would literally give the shirt off my back for others, that got ripped away from me because of all the messages and all the things that I got taught growing up in the hood. And so now I'm this person who constantly walks around in their masculine energy. And yes, I'm still kind. And yes, I still care for people. But I'm also skeptical. I'm also keeping an open eye out. That was never supposed to be me. That was never supposed to be me. But because you get fed these messages along the way in the hood, and because you get fed these messages from family, friends, whoever, whatever, you start to change. You start to become this person that you don't even recognize. And I'm slowly working to get back to who I was supposed to be, exactly who I was designed and created to be in God's image. I am doing that work 110%. And what I need to do is start working on these voices in my brain because they're not mine. They're part of the messages that I was taught when I was growing up in the hood, and I don't want them. I do not want them. That was never the life that I wanted for myself, but you don't get to choose. You don't get to choose how you start up. You get to choose where you end up. You get to make a choice. And that's the thing I had to keep telling myself. It's just like every time I fuck up and make the same mistake, I'm making that choice on purpose because I know exactly what's causing me to do that. I know exactly why I'm doing it, and I still do it. I still do it. And I cannot keep holding myself to this victim mentality of just like, oh, but I grew up with so much trauma. Nobody ever taught me the right thing and this, that, and the third. True. And Sabrina, we are smart enough to know what the exact trauma is that caused us to be here. We are smart enough to know that we need therapy. We need a relationship with God. We need to foster community to talk about these things and to work on them. And we know that when these things start to feel triggering, we know that we need to either find a solution if we haven't found one already, or if we found a solution, we need to practice it. We cannot just keep falling to our knees every time because we experience trauma. Yes, like we experienced trauma, and I never wanted to negate the fact that like trauma is not going to affect our lives, and that it's not going to affect the way we operate in life. It will forever affect the way we operate in life. It will forever change the way that you operate in this life. But do you want it to rule you so much to the point where you cannot live a fulfilling and happy life because you just want to throw your hands up every time and be like, well, I experienced trauma. Well, I had a bad childhood, well this, well that, or do you want to take control of your life again? And you can't control where you started, like I said, but you can control where you end up. Do you want to control where you end up? Every day you get to control where you end up. Every little choice that you make daily contributes to where you're going to end up at the end. It really does, because it's just like, okay, let's say I want to lose 100 pounds, right? If I want to lose 100 pounds, but I'm eating fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, I'm eating cake all the time and ice cream all the time, those are choices that I'm making to where I end up at. It don't sound like I'm finna lose 100 pounds if you ask me if that's how I'm eating. And those are the choices that I make. And yeah, when I grew up in the hood, I didn't eat the best, and I didn't have the best healthy, nutritious, balanced diet, whatever. I'm also Puerto Rican and black. Like, let's just be real. Let's just be real. My food is bussin', but it's not necessarily the healthiest. And I live alone now. I make my own money. I buy my own groceries. I get to make the choices of what I'm cooking in my home now. I can't just say, well, I grew up Puerto Rican and I grew up in a black family and these are the foods that we used to eat. And that's what I'm used to. But I want to lose 100 pounds. I want to lose 100 pounds, but I won't dare go for a walk. I won't dare lift a weight. I won't dare play a sport. It don't make no sense. It literally doesn't make any sense. And so I'm super grateful that I didn't script this out, and I'm super grateful that I'm just being transparent, because in all honesty, like, this is something that I needed to hear out loud. I felt like I was trying to have this conversation with myself internally without having to ever say a word. And in all honesty, I needed to say this out loud because I really need to come for myself. And when I tell you I'm going to watch this John back later, not just when I'm editing, but once it's done, because I really need to hear what I'm saying to myself. I can't have it go in one ear and out the other. That's the other thing about having an external conversation with yourself and not having a recording or something like that. You're going to forget. Like, there are going to be a couple of things that I'll remember, sure, a couple of key things, but I want to hear this over and over, because I need to remind myself every time that I'm frustrated, every time that I'm tired, every time that I'm doubting myself, that I get to make choices every single day that will control where I end up. I cannot control what has happened in the past. I cannot control who my parents are. I cannot control where I grew up. I cannot control any of that stuff. But I can control where I end up, what type of parent I end up being if God decides he wants to bless me with children, what type of wife I end up being if I get blessed to be a wife. I can control that. And I feel like it is very easy. It is very easy to allow the traumas and the experiences that you've been through in the past and use them as hall passes for the behaviors that you make now. Some of them are going to take more time, so give yourself some grace, but you know that there are some that you need to start holding yourself accountable for. And I'm not just coming for you. I need to say that every single time, because I never want listeners to feel like I'm only coming for them and I'm sitting on this high horse. Man, I am just as bumped up as the rest of y'all, okay? We are on this journey together. And I was at church today, and the word was so good. It was talking about how to conquer the devil. I will leave the link in the description for my for the sermon that my pastor gave, because it was fire. But it was just so timely, because I felt like the enemy was attacking me from all angles and sides. And, I did that conversation about spiritual warfare and all of that stuff. But at the same time, in that sermon, our pastor was just like, you need to know the difference between the enemy and your flesh. And it's just like, your flesh is that natural desire to want to sin, and the enemy is the thing telling you to do it, right? So naturally, every time I get in front of my computer, I feel like I'm not qualified enough. I feel like I can't do the thing that I'm supposed to do. I feel like I can't do the thing that I'm called to do. And then the enemy feeds off of what I'm already feeling. He's like, yeah, we're not going to record this video. You don't got to do it. You're not good enough to do it anyway. Even getting in front of the camera today, I was like, I watched a couple of UDY videos. First of all, crazy, but a conversation for another day. But I'm sitting there watching videos and and like procrastinating and just figuring like, oh, I don't have a script. I don't have an outline. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Just get in front of the camera and talk. Be real with them, because in all honesty, you don't even know what you got going on. You really don't even know what you got going on. You got too much going on, low key. You got too much going on, but you don't know what you got going on. And that's how I felt. So the word was good, and it gave me some encouragement, and it gave me a little motivation to just really push past these thoughts and these voices and this temptation, because it's just like, if I submit these things, if I submit these problems to God, as part of the sermon, if I submit these problems to God and let him handle it, he's stronger than me. He gonna handle it. I can't do it by myself. I clearly I can't. If I'm being realistic, and that's fine. And so that's just where I've been at. But I lost my train of thought. Hold on. So wrap up this next point. Those voices in your head that cause you to feel doubt are not yours. You have that desire in your heart for a reason. You want to push yourself to do that thing for a reason. You're not going to tell yourself not to do the thing that you genuinely feel in your feet, in your heart, in your soul, in your head, whatever, that you want to do it. You're not the one telling yourself not to do it. It is other voices along the way that you have heard that have caused you to doubt yourself. That's it. So ChatGPT had asked me, what would my own voice sound like in my head? And I said that it would be positive, it would be gentle, it would be kind, it would be encouraging, it would be uplifting, it would be motivational. Exactly what I want to put out into the world, that's exactly what my brain would feel like. And so then it asked, like, how would you feel if your voice was the only voice that you heard in your head? And I'm like, I had to really sit down and think about it. And again, therapy is free. You get on ChatGPT. And I had to really sit there and think about it, because it's just like, if that was the only voice that I had in my head, I would have been accomplished a lot of stuff that I wanted to accomplish right now. I would feel free. I would feel free mentally, spiritually, emotionally. I would be in my fitness bag. I would be in my content creation bag. I would be such an amazing friend. And I don't feel like I'm a bad friend, but I always feel like there's something more that I could be doing. It's just like, I feel like my life would flourish completely if my voice was the only voice that I heard in my head. And I really got to start doing that work to eliminate those other voices, because the voices that I'm hearing in my head, I'm not even cool with these people. We don't even rock together, but yet they're still a part of my life. They're still chilling right here, telling me what to do, telling me what not to do. Why would I take advice from somebody I don't even like? Why would I listen to those voices of people who don't have the best interest in their heart for me? But yet I do, because they tell me that I can't do the things that I want to do. And you know what I do? I close my laptop up and I go lay down. And then I'm in my feelings. And then I'm upset because I'm stressed out, because I keep hearing these voices. And it's like, I already given up. Why do I still hear the voices? But then at the same time, I also still have this desire to keep going, to record. And I keep coming up with ideas. So then it's just like, I'm sitting in the middle of just like, I want to pursue this thing, and I'm ready to pursue this thing, and I want to do this thing, but then I have all these voices telling me that I shouldn't, and whatever the case may be. It is hard. It is hard. And when I tell you I'm keeping it real with y'all, I'm keeping it real with y'all, like down to the crazy eyes, okay? Like, it is a hard journey. Hold on one second, because my brownies is done. Okay, I'm back. And my brownies smell and look amazing. Anyways, I want you to picture, first of all, I want you to backtrack. Identify whose voices are you hearing? Whose negative opinions are you hearing every time you try to pursue the thing that you want to pursue? Because I guarantee you that's not your own voice. I guarantee you those thoughts are not yours. They're not yours. So ask yourself, whose thoughts, whose voices are those? Then ask yourself, what would your own voice sound like if your best friend, your partner, whoever you love the most, your child came up to you and said, this is what I'm struggling with, and it's exactly what you're struggling with? What are you going to tell them? What are you going to tell them? Are you going to tell them, well, if the shoe fits, wear it? Or are you going to uplift them and be motivational to them? And then the last thing I want you to do is figure out how you're going to start eliminating those voices. And I'm not going to lie to you, that's going to be the biggest challenge, because depending on how long you've been getting fed those messages, they're in there, but you can get rid of them. Don't let anybody tell you that, oh, I've heard this my whole life, I'm never going to be able to get rid of it. No, you if you want to put in the work, you will get rid of whatever it is that you want to get rid of. You want to sit there and just say, well, I've been hearing this for 24 years of my life. I'm just going to kick my feet up and that's going to be what it is. Then that's your choice. But if you want to eliminate those thoughts, if you want to eliminate that mindset, eliminate those voices that are not yours, you're going to have to put in the work. And I have some shadow work prompts for you, and we're going to get to them. So let's move on to the next thing. So, y'all know that I love me some shadow work. I feel like there were a couple of episodes where I wasn't really doing it as much, but I'm definitely bringing it back because I need to get back into my shadow work bag. I feel like I've done a little bit of it here and there, but I definitely need to start going back into that because I feel like my best self when I'm being honest with myself about the things that I'm struggling with when I'm doing that work. Because here's the thing about shadow work, if you do not know what it is. Shadow work is essentially journal prompts. I would prefer that you do it in journal prompts because honestly, talking to yourself, it goes in one ear, out the other. Do journal prompts so you can read them. But essentially what it is that they're journal prompts that help you to identify the subconscious of yourself, the shadow of yourself, the things that you don't recognize on a day-to-day basis. So if you have low self-esteem, you do a shadow work prompts to figure out why you have low self-esteem. If you have a lot of self-doubt, you're trying to figure out, well, why do you have a lot of self-doubt? You do the shadow work prompts. You're trying to figure out why your subconscious is navigating you towards a way that you know you don't want to be consciously. And so I have 3 of them for you. And the first one is about releasing yourself from doubt and limiting beliefs. Please get yourself a pen and paper, your notes app, whatever. Write these down. And I'll be doing them with you. So if you guys want me to do a second part of this where I talk about my responses to some of these shadow work prompts, I'm happy to do that for you. So the first one is, what are the biggest doubts that I have about myself right now? Where do I think that they come from? The next one I have for you is about healing and forgiving. It says, is there someone, family, friends, teachers, etc., I need to forgive for making me feel small? And how can I start releasing that hurt? And the last one is, what does the fully healed and free version of me look like? How does she think? How do they think, feel, and move? And honestly, that last one I'm going to have to spend a lot of time with, because it's not just about me making money and me making content. Like, there are things that I need to work on, because I know eventually I want to be a wife. I know eventually I want to be a mom. And there are things that I do not want to pass down, that I do not want to tell my kids, that I do not want to inflict upon my husband, because I didn't heal my traumas ahead of time. So that one is going to be my biggest one for the week to really dive into. Again, if you want me to follow up on any of my responses to these shadow work prompts and just talk through how to do it and why it's important, I did do an episode. I can't remember what number it is off the top of my head, but I will link it in the description. And I'm happy to do a follow-up again, because I did that about a year ago, and my process is it's kind of the same, kind of different. I'm happy to bring in some more shadow work prompts if you want to. If you like the shadow work prompts and you want to start doing that inner work and that work on your subconscious, I do have a free $99 shadow work journal on a platform called Gumroad. It is linked in the description to every episode. It is on my link tree. And so if you want to do some of that shadow work for some other areas in your life, I will have that linked in the description. It has a bunch of stuff in there for you. Again, it is free. Free. And let me tell you one more time, it is free. All you got to do is put in your email. It'll ask you if you want to pay anything for it. If you want to give a donation, great. Ain't nobody forcing you, though. It is free. I'm not even going to play up in here. You just could put $0.00, and that's perfectly fine. And then you will have a downloadable PDF available to you. There are 2 versions. One of them is just all black because I made it on my iPad and it was aesthetically pleasing for me. And then one of them is in white in case you want to print it out on paper and go about it from that way. You could choose whichever one you want. They're both free, so if you want to get both of them, by all means. And I highly recommend, because one thing about it is, whenever I was struggling down bad, whether I had a good relationship with God or not, because there were definitely points in times where I didn't, shadow work was the thing that would get me out of my feelings. It would be like, yo, we got some things to really address and work on. Will I ever be a perfect human being? No. But does shadow work help me identify what problems I have that are causing me to move a certain way even though I don't want to move there? Absolutely. So go ahead and download that free shadow work journal and get yourself right with your subconscious. I guarantee you it will help you. And it's free, so make sure you download it. In addition to shadow work, y'all know that I love me some Jesus. You know that I love going to church. You know that I'm working on my relationship with God 110%. 110%. Make sure that y'all are praying as well. Y'all are asking for guidance. Y'all are asking for strength, and that you're submitting those issues and those problems that you have to God. Submitting is probably the hardest thing for me, because I feel like I got to be control of everything at all times. And I feel like my ability to do work is better because I can control it. I feel like I clearly think that that's above God. Even though I don't think that I'm better than God or more powerful than God, my actions say otherwise. And so make sure that you are praying to the man upstairs. And if you don't believe in Jesus and you believe in somebody else, hey, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to force my religion upon you. If you feel called to come and figure out who Jesus is, I'm happy to have. Sorry, y'all. My Alexa goes off every day at 6:15 with the weather. I don't know why. I never set that up, but whatever. If you want to come and figure out who Jesus is, I'm happy to have that conversation with you. I'm happy to point you in the direction to my pastor and my church and whatever. I'm happy to do all that, but I'm not forcing that upon you. If you pray to somebody else, you have a different religion. If you are not ready for that religion or that relationship with Jesus, ain't nobody forcing you. But what I will say though is that we love Jesus over here. And so make sure that you pray. Make sure that you pray and that you ask for strength and that you ask for guidance and that you ask for the ability to submit the problems and actually try your best. And that's something that I'm going to be really working on, is because I don't do that. And as much as I think that I do, I really don't, because I'm a control freak. And I would be lying if I said that I wasn't. Okay? I'm a control freak, and I want to be in charge of everything and anything. And I need to let that go, because not only do I want God to heal the things that I'm asking him to heal, but also if I want to be a wife, I can't be a control freak. If I want to be a mom, I can't be a control freak. It's okay right now because I'm single and whatever, but I need to start practicing that with God first, and that'll show up in other aspects of my life later on when that time comes. With all that, I know we had a little session of tough love. I know we went in on this episode. I'm not even going to lie. Now I'm sure you're wondering, like, okay, you're right. There are some things that I've been excusing with trauma. There are some things that I've been allowing myself to do just because I've been through X, Y, and Z. You're right. And I want to change and I want to make a change. How do I do that? I got you. I got a couple of things that because we are on this journey together, that we can do to help ourselves rid ourselves from those thoughts that are not ours, from being the victim mentality, from not holding ourselves accountable, and really just rebranding. So here's a couple of things I got for you. The first thing is to start speaking affirmations when you feel like doubt is creeping in. Start speaking those affirmations. That's why I do an affirmation at the end of every episode, to leave you with a little piece of uplifting, motivation, encouraging, whatever. If you didn't get anything from the episode, I try to leave you a little piece of something at the end. Also, make sure that you pray. I like to pray. Sometimes I'll say a little affirmation. Sometimes I'll do both. Whatever the case may be. Definitely put some prayer in there. I don't think this was on the list. Sorry, y'all. Oh, no, it is. But make sure that you pray. And make sure that you speak an affirmation onto yourself as well. Even better, if you can find a faith-based affirmation. And maybe that's something I'll do in the future. Stay tuned for another digital product. The next thing is write a letter rejecting the limiting beliefs that you've carried. Write a letter of the limiting beliefs that you've been carrying for yourself. And so write a letter to the person that you are right now and just be honest with them. Write a breakup letter with them. Be like, yo, I'm done with you. Quite frankly, it's just like, yeah, you're cool and the vibes is great and whatever, and I'm familiar with you, but I'm really not getting nothing out of you. Honestly, you're not going to help me elevate. You're not going to help me be the person that I want to be. You're not going to help me grow. You're holding me back, and I got to let you go. We can't do this no more. You need to break up with the version of yourself that you currently are right now. You need to say bye to them. It's time for them to go. Chuck the deuces up to them and move on. It's not working. It's not working out. Start saying goodbye to the limiting beliefs that you have. Kiss them goodbye. They're not working for you. They have no room here. Because for you to be the person that you genuinely want to be, for you to be the best version of yourself, the highest version of yourself, the version of yourself that God has called you to be, you need to break up with the version of yourself that you are right now, because they're not doing nothing for you. Guaranteed. The only thing that they're doing for you actually is holding you back. And the last one, I already said this, but I'm going to say it again. You need to leave some time for prayer and reflection. There are times where I don't pray. And there are times where I just think that if I go to the gym, it's going to solve my problems. If I ignore my problems, that's going to solve my problems. If I talk to my friends, that's going to solve my problems. I literally do anything before I pray sometimes. And it's just like, all it does is make it worse, to the point where it's just like, I got no choice but to pray to God. And thankfully, I have a merciful and graceful God that will always be there for me when I'm ready, because he ain't never going to force me. But I keep doing that to myself. I keep pushing myself to all these other remedies, thinking that's going to help me, instead of just going to the source of joy. Instead of going to the Most High and asking him what I should do next. What's my next move? Can you give me the strength? Can you give me the wisdom? Can you give me the guidance? Whatever. Can you show me something that I need to be shown? Whatever it is that you're going through, go to the Most High. Again, ain't nobody forcing their religion on you, but if you are ready to have a conversation about Jesus, you want to know a little bit more about him, I got some resources for you. Hit me up in my DMs. But make sure that you leave that time for that. Don't let your prayer be your last resort. And I'm really talking to myself. Stop making it your last resort, because you going to get there eventually for sure. Do you really want to be down bad to the point where it's just like, oh, I really have nowhere else to go, so let me just go to prayer? Or can you just make that the first step so that you don't have to be down bad on your knees begging, crying, and you blowing your nose? Like, just don't make it your last resort, because in all honesty, when it's your last resort, it's probably because you're just down bad. So bad. And in all honesty, you got to take accountability for the fact that you aided in that, because you waited so long to get the help that it is that you needed from God. All right, y'all. I am thinking about doing a shadow work journal based solely off of today's episode of just feeling challenged with trying to pursue the things that you want to pursue, doubt, feeling overwhelmed, healing. If that is something that you are interested in, go ahead and leave a comment. Drop a purple heart emoji. That's what I'm asking you to do. Drop a purple heart emoji if you see this on TikTok. If you see this on Instagram, if you see this on YouTube, if you comment on Spotify, drop a purple heart emoji if you are interested in that shadow work journal. Right now, again, I do have a free shadow work journal that is available on a platform called Gumroad. It is linked in my link tree. It is always linked in the description of every single episode since I've made it, as far as I can remember. And so, if that is something you're interested in, more specified shadow work journals for things that you're going through, leave a purple heart emoji, and I am happy to start getting to work on that. But we are at the point where we've reached the affirmation for this week's episode. And the affirmation for this week's episode is, I have the power to eliminate limiting beliefs. I'm going to go ahead and repeat this 3 times. If you have the ability to close your eyes, close your eyes. However you want to write this down, however you want to speak this positivity on your life, find a way to do it. So, I have the power to eliminate limiting beliefs. I have the power to eliminate limiting beliefs. I have the power to eliminate limiting beliefs. And honestly, y'all, I need to say this one more time. I have the power to eliminate limiting beliefs. All right, y'all, that is all I have for you this week. Let me know how you feel about this FaceTime, quote unquote, type of podcast episode. This was heavily unscripted. All I really had written down was my shadow work prompts, just the order of things I wanted to talk about. A part of me wants to apologize for the tough love, but I think I'm going to hold off on that apology because I know it's needed. If not for none of y'all, it was needed for me. But I really hope that this episode helped you. Let me know in the comments below on YouTube, or if you comment on Spotify, what your thoughts were on this episode. What are some limiting beliefs that you're struggling with? Is there anything that we over here at the HSL podcast, it's really just, it's me and the Lord. If there's anything that we could do to support you, if there are any episode topics that you want to hear about, leave them in the comments. And we are starting to grow. And I really do appreciate anybody who listens to the podcast, especially if you listen in full. I appreciate anybody that's been following our TikTok and our Instagram and subscribing to our YouTube. Thank you so much. I think I'm going to start getting ready to create a form for episode topic ideas. And I might even start doing a little Q&A sections here and there, depending on how many submissions that we get. Because I really do this for y'all. Like, is some of this for me? Yeah. Are these some of the things that I need to hear for myself? Absolutely. But more importantly, I want to pour out that positivity to y'all. Like, I can only do so much for just me, but I know there are other people who are on this journey who want and need help, and they don't know where to go. They don't have relationships where people understand where they're coming from, and I understand that 110%. So if there's anything you ever need advice on, if there's anything you ever want us to talk about over here on the podcast, please let us know. The DMs on Instagram and TikTok, both at the HSL Pod, are always very much open. The comment section is YouTube is also very much open. Bear with me on Instagram because it's a business page, so sometimes they be splitting up the messages and they'll have it like hidden. And so I be trying to check every day just to make sure there's not anything in there. If you want to avoid that entirely, just go to TikTok because they don't do all that extra stuff. But yes, please let us know if there's anything that you want us to talk about. But that's all I got for you this week. Until then, I'm going to catch y'all on the next one. Bye.